Hi, it's Monday. It's 3 o'clock. Welcome to Together Unlocked, brought to you as always by the Disability Arts Organisation Together 2012. I'm Ju Gosling, Artistic Director and Artist. With me, as she's been locked down since March in my East London studio, is our chair, the artist and documenter Julie Newman. But before we give you further introductions and some audio description, let's go over to the other ends of our wheeled virtual sofa to the West Midlands, where instead of two people in one room, we currently have two people in two rooms. Let's start with Josh. Who are you? What do you look like? And why are you locked away?
I am Josh Surgener. I'm one of the other hosts of Together Unlocked, and I am a PhD student in my spare time, I guess. Um, I have clean, swept over blonde hair, and I'm wearing a grey t shirt that has a little pocket on the left breast. And we are in separate rooms because last week I was notified by the venue that someone that was there at the same time had came back positive. I've had a test and it came back negative, which is great, but we still have to isolate for 14 days as per the guidelines. So that is why we are separated for another few shows.
Yeah, well, thank you for taking one for the team and the rest of the audience and being able to demonstrate to us. Around 3:15 we will have our weekly app date and we'll talk a bit more about it then. So, coming on to Robin, abandoned on his own.
Oh yeah, I'm bereft. Although I do have the benefit of the rest of my family in the house. So, afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the new week. I'm Robin Surgener. I am business director at Together 2012, Together Unlocked TV host and artist known as Angry Fish. And as explained, well, I'm in the usual studio space, which is actually looking much tidier behind me. Must be just because Josh isn't here, obviously. Um, and today I am freshly shaven. I have tidy grey white hair, no rimmed black armed glasses, and I am wearing a black round neck t-shirt with a kind of complicated-ish logo on the front. It's a kind of stars and stripes t-shirt, but it has a crucifix that runs through it vertically, which says Manic Street Preachers. And I guess they're not fans of the American system.
Thank you for that. So, I'm Ju Gosling, also known as the artist Ju90. I have a short, moth eaten, henna red corona crop, black plastic glasses, black wrist braces, silver coloured jewellery, and what looks on the stream like the brightest, most fluorescent yellow t shirt you can think of. In fact, in real life, it is considerably less yellow. Perhaps not the lemon yellow that I saw in the online catalogue, though very, very, very bright lemon. I've got olive skin, green eyes, and I don't think there's much more I can say apart from the fact that behind us is our graffiti banner, which says Together 2012 and has images of all the different activities that we usually produce over the course of a year and indeed are producing just in a different way this our digital year. So that's poetry, spoken word, drama, music, carnival art, street art, visual arts, crafts, photography and filmmaking, and much, much more. On a Monday, we focus on all sorts of performance, photography, and filmmaking. So we will be telling you a great deal more about that soon. But first, Julie, you've been very patient. Who are you? What do you look like?
Well, before you get to me, there's somebody else in the middle
Ah,
wearing a medal.
oh, yes, behind us as well. Not very well lit today, but I'll see what I can do about that when we have one of the videos on. Is Pink Ted. Pink Ted is wearing a gold plastic medal because
Oh,
that's
yes.
all we've got. And I'm afraid that's a commemorative medal and not one we've won. But since March, we have been participating in the International Bear Hunt for Children. We're participating in the virtual bear hunt. So we put forward different teddy bears onto the stream each week, or in the Surgeoner's case, soft toys that have a sort of a link to a teddy bear but don't often actually look like one. And on a Wednesday, we bring forward fresh competitors and they compete by proxy in our Clockwork Paralympics, where we race clockwork toys to see who can wear a medal this week. The Surgeoners are always winning on points because they're incredibly competitive, as befits a household with a Paralympian in it, I think, and para coaches. So I think you can probably even tell us how many more games you've won than us.
No, not anymore.
Not anymore. You see,
Not
there's
anymore.
a giveaway. Since we've won the last 2 weeks, I think things have really.
So you're starting to even it up. You've had a good kind of 6 week string. I think you've won the last 5, so it's
No,
evening up.
we won the week before last. Come on, just
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
okay, I know we've only got a winning streak of 2. So Pink Ted is making his first appearance as a competitor, particularly suited to parasport because he's only had one eye since I was a child, which was more than 50 years ago. So, Julie, now we've introduced Teddy.
How can I compete? How can I compete? I'm Julie. I'm the chair of Together 2012. I also have clean hair, but mine is not quite so neat as everybody else's. It's growing out. It's gold and silver. I have dark rimmed glasses. Today I wear a white T-shirt saying "Choose Love," which I think is a lovely message, especially on such a lovely day.
Okay, who's making buzzy noises and can they turn their virtual microphones off first?
I suspect Robin.
I suspect Robin.
it wasn't me. Thank you very much. It was old Tappy Happy in the isolation suite.
Well, I've muted Josh for a moment. Do forgive us, viewers. We've got to know each other so well over the last 6 months that we've started squabbling now. But I'm going to take Josh's mic. Oh, Josh has popped off the stream temporarily. That's what comes of joining us in isolation, but he's going to pop back in a second. While I'm getting Josh back in, on a Friday, we have a feature, something for the weekend, where we recommend things to do at home, online, and offline. How did you guys get on at the weekend? What did you end up doing?
Well, shall I say quickly first? Because I didn't do an awful lot, to be honest. I listened to the Formula One race from Russia with increasing frustration. I listened to it on the BBC Sounds app. And then I watched a little bit of the Channel 4 highlights. But it was frustrating because whatever anybody says in Formula One about, oh, everything's fair and everything else, when Lewis Hamilton turns around and says, they're picking on me, I think he's absolutely right, actually. And, let's not forget, there is always institutional racism. I'm not saying for a minute that the F1 are institutionally racist, but there's a bias there which can come out in many ways, as well we know.
And what about art, sport, cinema, theatre, online?
What did I do? I watched some films, which was lovely. I can't remember what they were now, but I did enjoy them.
I can remind you, and perhaps we might even spend a minute on it as we've got plenty of time at the moment. And that was a new movie on Disney Plus out this year called something. It was about the Second Born Royals, and they've just released it for anybody who's decided to invest in Disney Plus as an
The
alternative to
Secret
going.
Society.
The Secret Society of Second Born Royals. I'm not saying it was the biggest load of nonsense I've seen all year, but it was still quite enjoyable. I might leave it at that. But I did love the picture of Princess Margaret, which kept popping up in the background.
And Harry.
As members of this supposed society. And apparently, if you're born royal, that's great. You get to run a country. And if you're a second born royal, you get superhero powers.
Oh, nice.
Yes, I think we're all keen on that. But yes, it was pretty silly, but it was It must have something to recommend it, but I'm not entirely sure.
It was light, it was a distraction, and it had no connection whatsoever to reality. So
And of course, it's all included in your subscription, so you can afford to make a few bum choices. What about you, Josh? Did you do anything creative, sporty, or how was the view from isolation?
I just watched a lot of Netflix, really, and kind of did some reading. I just kind of stuck in my room by myself a little bit. We FaceTimed to watch the um, Grand Prix because Dad had it recorded, and I didn't want to have to kind of watch all the adverts on Floor on Demand. So we kind of propped his phone up on the table and we FaceTimed so I could watch the recorded ones. So we could fast forward through all the ad breaks, um, which was good fun. And then I just kind of got in some TV that I need to kind of, I say need to catch up on. Don't know if it was a need per se, but I kind of indulged in Netflix this weekend.
Well, there's an awful lot of people out there in your position, including an increasing number of students, and I reckon the TV and particularly Netflix is going to be all that stands in place of absolute madness. And I don't actually mean that jokingly. I think there can't be anything worse than going off to university with a very limited number of possessions and people you don't know, and immediately find yourself in isolation. If any of you are out there in that position, we're here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 3 to 4 p.m. with a highlights section. We release the recordings in the evening with embedded captions. And in the meantime, anybody watching this show on YouTube, if you go to our website, you will see the live captions streaming there now. Thanks to the wonderful Julia from Global Real Time Captioning, and thanks to National Lottery and City Bridge Trust for funding it for the next 6 months, which we found out last week. So we're still very, very happy about that. Robin, what did you do? And Josh, I'm just going to ask you to mute when you're not speaking because we're getting quite a lot of background noise.
Yeah, I think we're getting kind of echoey, roundy things, but hopefully it's not coming through. So, what did I do? Well, we did coaching training Saturday morning. Then Saturday afternoon, actually, Tracy and EJ and I got in the car, went for a drive, went to look where a couple of schools are situated. Just looking towards future stuff. Don't want to say too much. Just we went out, didn't get out. We went out. Although it was cold, my gosh, the temperature had really dropped. And then Sunday, I did actually. The recommendation I'd made for Coley for the Sunday morning live on BBC One. I watched, not quite live, I have to say. Just other things going on, but I did watch that, and it was a great little interview actually. Unfortunately, they cut the bit out where my name was mentioned as a someone who helped. Obviously, no. I mean, but it was very good, and obviously they only have a small amount of time, so it kind of broached from her saying that she had no confidence to now she was performing live and missed out the bit that how she got there. But hey, that's the way it goes. I know I was there.
And more to the point, you have got a jolly good program which might even be coming online soon. Watch this space. So just to explain a little bit more to anybody who's a new viewer, under our main Together Unlocked TV page on our website, you will find a variety of other pages, starting with our highlights and links page. We will put any videos up that we show during the show, but also any links. So if you're interested in Cooley Coley's work or anything else we've mentioned, just go to the highlights and links page. There's one per month. So Wednesday will be the last in the September sections, but at the end of each month, you can just click straight through to the following month. We've also, I believe, got a Together Unlocked Animal Hosts page. And just before we went online, we posted a picture of Christy, who had decided that he was going to get into the lift from the office to the studio and come and present. We did actually turf him out again, but if anybody wants to find out more about Christy or any other cats or dogs that suddenly make random appearances, that's where to look. So it's bang on 3:15. It's time for our regular weekly feature update. We started update in August when Newham was chosen to lead on the testing for the NHS COVID-19 app. We're keeping it going as a Monday feature to talk about the app, but also all sorts of art apps and anything app related in terms of access, inclusion and accessibility. But we're going to start with Robin because Robin only got the opportunity, like everybody else outside of Newham, to download the app on Friday. You told us about that, but now you've actually used it, haven't you? So can you tell us how that works?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as you know, or sorry, regular viewers will know, I'm a swimming coach, and swimming training is one of the activities that is currently still allowed to be ongoing. Water polo and synchro, for example, aren't allowed to continue, but diving and swimming training is. And we use on a Friday a sports centre called Harborne, which is is part of Birmingham. I was going to say in the north, and that's not the truth. So I'm just saying Harborne, which is part of Birmingham, a nice part. And we use their leisure centre on a Friday evening. Now already that they're being incredibly fastidious, or extremely careful about how they're cleaning. They're wiping down the entire kind of pool hall between sessions. As we're in there, where kids have walked around and touched a bar that they might have just kind of just incidentally touched as they've walked around, they're wiping it down. I mean, they're really, really conscious of keeping it clean. But to add to that, as we arrived into the pool, they're on the kind of we have to go in, we do a register, we do a forehead temperature check with one of those. I was going to say gun, but it's not really what it is at all, is it? And there on the table was a kind of A4 size QR code saying NHS COVID-19 app. Sign in if you are 16 or over. And so I did, and it was literally open the app, and then there's a tab that says scan your here or whatever. Oh, goodness me, scan QR code. Thank you, co-host in isolation. And it was just a case of kind of having to move the phone back a little bit. Sometimes if you're not used to using a QR code, you think, oh, bro, the bigger I can get it in the screen, it's going to be better. And actually, so it's not. Sometimes there must be a sort of internal sort of spacing, framing bit of the software. And so I had to pull back a little bit. I mean, and it took like 5 seconds, literally.
Can I ask you, just stop there for a minute, part
Yeah.
my lack of short-term memory and not being able to remember the questions. I've never used a QR code to scan, and I imagine there's quite a lot of other people out there, because one of the things that they pointed out in terms of the original kind of media around the app on Friday is that QR codes had kind of come and gone until now they'd had their time. But I'm also interested that it was on the table because one of the pieces of feedback you'd given the app team was that if something was on a poster, and Josh had made this point kind of very clearly, if you can't hold your phone up, then it's no good. So it was in the right place then.
It was. I mean, I don't know how happenstantial or thought out that was, but certainly it was. They got like an A4 cardboard book stand, just a very typical kind of little poster thing. And it was, for me, it was a great height because it was literally at my arm height. So I guess if you're 6'3", you'd probably be more of a pain because you'd have to bend down a bit. But and so
Than growing new legs, I always think when people kind of point out that things disadvantage tall people, and I always ask myself, is it impossible to bend down or sit down? Probably not. But if you're a small person or a child, you can't really fly up.
Yeah.
So, that's great. So it all worked.
Yeah. And thankfully, I haven't had any come back saying that someone else who'd been there has tested positive. Otherwise, our house is going to get slightly smaller if that happens.
Well, the BBC News channel have got the app, the online BBC News app has got a very good story at the moment, which is looking at some of the issues that have come up and giving explanations. Because one of the things we've been saying since August is until you have millions of people using the app, you don't know what's going to go wrong. And apparently 10, possibly 20 million people have already downloaded it. I think it's
Wow.
10 million, which is almost at the point when it would really be successful already. But of course, lots of issues have started coming up. And I think one of the things around the QR code was people saying, well, why can't I sign out again? Why do I leave my name when I go in, but I can't sign out? And they were explaining, well, it doesn't really work like that. It is just simply a case of if that venue has been found to have problems beyond infected people being in there. So, for example, a number of the staff have tested positive, they've got virus that they found on surfaces, then you would be notified. But you wouldn't be notified if somebody positive came in after you left, because you wouldn't have spent 50
Yeah.
And I
Absolutely.
think that was one of the things that was fairly clear to me from the start, but has obviously confused a lot of people. I think people have also been blaming the government for not being able to run the app on older phones, when of course it's Apple and Google who haven't, who've chosen not to make it compatible with those phones. And actually, there's some debate about whether you could make it compatible, and people say, well, no, because you need low energy Bluetooth, and those older phones don't have the capacity. And some people are saying, well, Apple and Google haven't included that functionality anyway. But really, there's nothing the government or the NHS could do, I think, is the short answer to that one. But I don't think it's a deal breaker. One of the comments I think that I could really relate to is once you get through to the government website, and a lot of the app ultimately takes you to the government website for the latest information. It's not a great website. I don't think it's ever been a great website, and nothing really seems to have changed. Josh, and I'll leave you to unmute yourself when you want to say something, but has either of you two tried going through the app? I mean, if you come in now, Josh, actually, if you can't take it, oh, there we go. How's the app been in terms of somebody who's had a test? What's worked for you and what hasn't?
So for me, I haven't actually, because I had a negative test, I went on to kind of input my test result, and it said if you have a positive test, then link it. So I guess they're kind of not necessarily that fussed about negative tests, or they're interested. But yeah, it says physically you had a positive test, I guess, so that can then trigger the kind of push out to anyone or anywhere that you've been. So for me, actually, because I haven't left my bedroom since I downloaded the app, I haven't really kind of used any of the functionality outside of kind of signing in and getting it set up, which was super easy. I know that I think it was Friday, Dad was talking about when it asked for your postcode, and I know we stressed this quite a lot, kind of during the trial, that it only needs the front part of your postcode, and the app itself really stresses that and really emphasizes that it only needs the first part. And then it's, for example, if your postcode is this, and then it gives you one, it's like, we only need this bit. So for those, for people that are kind of concerned about privacy and it kind of knowing where you live or whatever, the app itself is very clearly being like, look, we just want to know the rough area. We don't need to know exactly where you are.
It's not asking you for any information, because that information doesn't leave your phone. The reason it asks you to put the postcode in is so you can get the correct information about your postcode.
Yeah.
So you can, for example, if you have other ways of finding out about your own area, but you're worried about your elderly mother, you can put her postcode in. If you're fairly okay about where you are at home, but actually you're concerned about commuting, you can put your work postcode in. At the moment, you've only got the facility to either deinstall the app or change it once every 2 weeks, and apparently it asks you to confirm every 2 weeks if you want to keep to that postcode. I'm just going to put one of what we call our short Auntie films on. Auntie isn't short, but it's one of the short films we've made from our film, which is over 7 minutes, called WhatsApp Auntie. But WhatsApp Auntie can answer all of your questions, and some you haven't even thought of. So let's just have a short Auntie explaining the different functions.
WhatsApp Auntie.
What are you looking at?
The new NHS COVID-19 app, Auntie.
What's that?
It's a new way to fight coronavirus using our phones. It'll help everyone to protect each other and save lives. Let me explain. The app works in 6 different ways. If you become ill, the app helps you to check if you have coronavirus symptoms. If you do have coronavirus symptoms, the app helps you to book a test. This test can be carried out at home, at a walk-in centre, or at a drive-in centre. If you do test positive for coronavirus, you tell the app on your phone. Then you isolate, which is stay at home alone, for 2 weeks after your symptoms started. After that, you should no longer be infectious. While you're isolating, the app provides you with advice and support. Isolating is essential to stop the virus spreading. The app tells all of the phones that have been closer to you than 2 meters for at least 15 minutes over the past 2 weeks. The apps on those phones then alert their owners to isolate in case they're infected too. They can then book their own tests using the app.
Will you help me to install the app now, please?
Yes, of course, Auntie. Support the app. Support the NHS. Save lives.
And that's us back. So yes, I think it sounds like it's a little bit confusing if it makes it sound like the government's asking you for your postcode, because like I say, all of the information with the app stays on the phone, which I think is one of its biggest advantages. There's certainly been a rush of kind of tinkering just since it's came out. Apparently there was some kind of issue where Public Health England and NHS test results hadn't been linked immediately. That is now working. And I think any problems they can solve are certainly kind of underway to being solved. Like I say, things like it not working on old phones, there's really not a great deal that anybody can do about that. What were your other experiences, Robin and Josh? I mean, I know, Josh, you was, just to come to you for a minute, I know you were saying about not being able to import a negative result. And I think one of the issues seems to be that if you've booked your test through the app, then you can get more information and it will do your countdown and so on. If you've booked your test in a different way, then I think there's less functionality in terms of isolation. But there is advice that you can get in terms of isolating through the app. Have you tried any of it?
I haven't looked at the advice through the app, simply because I kind of followed the links that I got from the communications around my test. So I just kind of followed those links directly. But I imagine they would lead kind of to the same kind of hub page on the NHS site. I think it's at the bottom. It's kind of get advice. I think the issue with linking up the NHS tests, when I went for mine, I booked it through the government website because obviously I had my test before the app was was released, you get a kind of little A5 card that has a number kind of barcode on it that's linked to you. It's all done with kind of codes and things so they can sync up tests with people. And then you kind of input that code. I think the problem with that app initially was that kind of in hospital tests didn't have that card because they were just done by the hospital. There was no need to have a kind of electronic link because the hospital just went, oh yeah, it's this patient. So they've now kind of changed that. But I think that's what the issue was for that. And like you said, it was a fairly easy fix. And they kind of went, oh yeah, it's done. That's sorted. So yeah.
Yeah, and in fact, there's a potential fix on QR codes that you yourself proposed if it becomes a problem, which is generate a number that people can input instead of scanning the code. So there's certainly a great deal more to be seen. We, of course, want the app to be working because we want live theatre and live performance and indeed cinemas to be reopening again as soon as possible. So we do encourage you, if you have a compatible smartphone, to download the app. And if you're having problems with it, please let us know and we will report that straight back to the NHS app development team. But now let's move on to things a bit more creative. I didn't even say what I did at the weekend, but I managed to discover something. I can't. Well, is it called hodgepodge? It's a kind of glue that you can use on glass, and it's dishwasher proof. It's a glue, it's a varnish, it's a sealant, and it comes in all sorts of different kind of permutations in terms of things like matte and gloss and for different purposes. I'd never come across it before, but about 20 years ago, no, about 15 years ago, I made a mosaic over the bath and used a lot of glitter, which of course now I realise in terms of microplastics was not a good idea. So I wanted to seal it as much as I possibly could, as well as kind of patch up the bald bits. And in the past, I think kind of artists and craftspeople have always used PVA glue, which is a white glue which you can buy very expensively and very cheaply, but it's all exactly the same thing. So we would say just buy a large industrial carton. But it's not good with hot water. And this hodgepodge or whatever it's called, I'm sure there's people who craft screaming at me at home what it's actually called. I suspect it will take me a long time to get my head around it. But I found that really interesting. And it just reminded me that just because we do things for years, we should just check that there are new products on the market. I'm someone who's maybe not found lockdown as challenging as many because I haven't been able to go out of the house on my own for 20 years. So I don't get to go to these big craft markets and supermarkets and things. But I think it's just another reminder during lockdown. Yeah, check out online, see what's available. If you have the money to invest in some new materials, don't just order what you've always been using, check out something new. And when I finally finish the mosaic to my satisfaction, possibly by Friday, I will put a photograph up on the stream along with the correct name. In fact, I'll put the correct name up on the highlights and links. But this is how you can join in from home with things that we do, and particularly today, photography and filmmaking. Together 2012 is running a Join In From Home programme from our website, together2012.org.uk. Click on the link at the top of the page, Join In From Home, to go straight to the main page where you have a wide range of accessible, inclusive creative activities, mostly using things that you would already have at home. At the top of the page and throughout the pages, you will also see videos in British Sign Language to translate the site for deaf people. These videos can also be useful if you have difficulties reading and you simply want to hear more of the content. The Join In From Home programme is based on the activities that we would usually be running in East London. Dance Club usually meets on the fourth Monday of each month, and they create improvised masked dance for the screen. Here you can also see their very first film, where they simply made masks from paper plates, covered themselves with fabric, and just moved gently to the music. You can hear as well there's an improvised soundtrack. So we're suggesting that you make a mask out of anything you can think of. It could be a cardboard box, a paper bag, a paper plate, as in here. Video yourself dancing in it and then share the video with us. We will show it on screen, and we will also enter it into the dance programme of our film festival, which we run every December. If you're temporarily or permanently chair-based, there's also a warm-up you can do here created by our associate wheelchair dance company Folk in Motion, and that focuses on relaxing your upper body and improving your breathing. The Photographers and Filmmakers Club usually meets on the second Monday of each month. We're inviting you to make a video at home with the theme of home and share it with us. You can use a phone or a camera, make any kind of film you wish, including drama, documentary, dance, animation, artist films, comedy, and they'll be eligible for a CAT award at our December Film Festival. You can also watch with us from home. In addition to Together 2012 TV with Together Unlocked and other live streams, we have the Together Disability Film Festival highlights. Each year we run the International Together Disability Film Festival in Stratford, bringing together a wide range of films by disabled filmmakers, as well as films about disability issues and disabled people. We always publish the programmes online with links to the films that are freely available, so we invite you to revisit our recent film festivals from the comfort of your own home, and also to send us reviews of those films. And finally, you can sit back, relax and enjoy videos of past live performances, artist talks and creative workshops that we've produced in the past here. So, for example, from past festivals, we have documentation and films of creative dance workshops, street art performances, dances that the dance club have created, dance performances, and of course, we're continuing to add new activities on a regular basis. And here we are again. So that's our Join In From Home programme in terms of making and watching films and indeed photographs with us. Julie, I don't know if you've got anything to add, but I also have a film from after several weeks' gap from our associate drama company, Act Up Newham. Regular viewers will know that they have been sending us films right through lockdown. They had their usual but briefer summer break. They're back and they have made us one more film before they start their autumn project. And their autumn project is a production for our Together 2020 Disability History Month Festival. We're going to announce the programme next week, the first full week of October. It begins in the middle of November and runs till the middle of December, which is Disability History Month for you. We don't do months like everybody else. We split ours across the calendar months. It's going to be entirely virtual this year, including our 3-day film festival. So all of that is going to be really exciting, and we're really looking forward to Act Up's film. But they've made this here, and it's celebrating effectively the content they've made for us over the last 6 months.
This is our last print from the lockdown.
We're going to move on to our next project. It's going to be very excited.
We want to celebrate how proud we are of our work.
Since the start of the lockdown, ACT UP have continued their inspirational work virtually. It has really brought a smile to my face during this time of challenge. Roxana Fiaz, Mayor of Newham.
I'm proud of ACT UP, being happy and friends on the computer, making films that were good.
I am proud we accomplished so much together. We are a strong team and we never break.
For love. Let's all celebrate and have a good time.
There have not been merry, really bright or funny times during lockdown and during the whole COVID crisis, but the ACT UP films have been funny, interesting, moving. They've just been fantastic.
I'm proud of the world had done to actually check, but ACT UP has been working hard. We are wanted ACT Happy Family.
I'm very proud of ACT UP being so active. Although we are having lockdown, but we are still doing our activities through Zoom, and we still produce 25 films and videos, and we still work together.
And you can do the same, yeah. What have you done today to make you feel proud? It's never too late to try. What have you done today to make you feel proud?
I'm proud of using Zoom and when we could meet.
I'm proud that ACT UP has all come together and made some space for myself online.
We are extremely proud of our associate drama company, ACT UP Newham. The films also form a unique record of our disability community in Newham at such an historic time. Congratulations to you all. Ju Gosling, Artistic Director Together, 2012.
Thank you for watching.
Bye.
Boy, can't stop me now. You can do the same, yeah. What have you done today to make you feel proud? It's never too late to try. What have you done today to make you feel proud? Mm-hmm.
And here we are back again. So I'm delighted to say that throughout Black History Month, which starts on Thursday, 1st of October, also I have to say National Poetry Day, so we'll be talking more about that on Wednesday, we're going to be profiling, showcasing and highlighting the work of disabled artists of colour throughout October, and that is going to include a profile of each of our wonderful members of ACT UP Newham. So if you want to get to know more about people like Glory, Grace and so on and so forth, Pizer, who else, Judy? Awa, yes. Now, and indeed, that brings me nice link. Bit slow, but we also have at the end of today our new feature, Relax with Awa. Awa has started her own relaxation and yoga channel, and each week we finish on Monday with their final meditation. So I'm looking forward to that. But I mean, I know I'm very proud of ACT UP. And did you want to say a few words as chair for their first 6 months digitally?
Absolutely. I thought they were spot on from the very beginning. They kept together, they kept being creative, they kept working as a team, they kept producing work so that other people could share it and see what they're doing. But also what they've done, and I was struck by this before I even saw the film, was they've created a unique documentation of lockdown, and I suspect there's quite a lot of that going on quietly in the background. I know there's somebody I know very well and have known for years who's been keeping a diary every day. So she had over 100 days worth of diary entries about her thoughts about lockdown. I have been taking little screenshots or snapshots every day. So oddly enough, I've got my own little bit of documentation as well. But I suspect if people look back, maybe look back at that things that they've written, things that they've read, things that they've said. I think all of us probably have a unique take on lockdown and how it's affected us individually.
I think that's right. I think what's been so particularly wonderful about ACT UP and what's such an amazing achievement is they've done it together. And I
Yeah.
think that's much, much more difficult, particularly when you're working with people who've got very different access requirements, each and every one of them. Apologies, I should have done a bit of audio description. Oh, and apologies for the fact that my phone's going off. Shouldn't be possible. But apparently it is. We'd left it on alert because we do occasionally have problems in the other studio. But anyway.
Glad it wasn't me.
Yes, I'm glad it wasn't anybody else. Because then I would have got jolly cross, but I can only slap myself on the wrist, and that's not terribly easy when you've got them in wrist braces. But going back to that, a little bit of audio description. They create their performances on Zoom. In that video, you had the different people speaking. You then had them solo on the camera. Otherwise, you had them all together, and with the music, people were dancing in a celebratory way. I think what's been lovely about that, like I say, is people coming together from different cultural backgrounds, different age groups. I think the age range is early 20s to mid 70s, which in 6 or 7 people is an amazing thing. But there's one person who wasn't on the screen and who's never been on the screen, and in fact has been responsible for coordinating everything. And that's the general manager. I'm not sure she calls herself that, but I would. And that's Hannah Facey. Hannah, you have been an absolute star. Hannah lives with Stera, so she's also working as Stera's PA. Hannah has been doing all of the technical support for everybody. She's been doing all of the editing. She's been doing all of the captioning, and apologies, I'm not quite sure why some of the captions were slightly cropped, screening them on our screen. However, the video will be embedded on our highlights and links page directly to the ACT UP YouTube channel, always worth a look. So I think you'll be able to see the captions properly on that. I think everybody has had to come up with different filmmaking techniques, haven't they? And that's just been one that's worked really well. If there's anybody out there who hasn't actually tried recording anything, Zoom gives you some, I think, very helpful options, because if you get into the advanced settings and you have to go onto the website, it took me a long time to discover there were 2 lots of settings on Zoom, and all the important ones are actually in a completely separate thing on the website. But you can record each track individually. So you can have a video of each speaker full screen as well as the video of the gallery view. And that's how Hannah's been able to do that editing, by always doing more than one recording. And it's a great feature. You've just got to click one button and you can record on Zoom. Like I say, you can select in advance that you want to record everybody separately and the screen together. And it's really a great way to make work. You do need a subscription if it's going to be for more than 40 minutes. But we're quite generous with our own subscription. So if you're an artist out there with absolutely no money, but you need access to Zoom for longer than 40 minutes, email me. It's info@together2012.org.uk or tv@together2012.org.uk, and I'm just going to put that information up on the bottom of the screen. And again, for anybody who needs audio description, we've now been joined by another cat, and this is a tabby called Jinx. Again, the page on the animal hosts is on our highlights section. Well, it's on the same section as highlights and links under the main Together Unlocked TV page.
So can I just jump in just before we get to having to say goodbye? We've not just a quick question. What is the final submission date for people who might have films that they want included in the Together festival? And is there an ideal length, or is there a too long length of film?
No, those are really, really sensible questions. The preferred deadline is this Wednesday, which is the 30th of September. But in fact, I will take films up till the end of October. If you are making a film, but it's not going to be complete, then the way the festival works has always been you can submit without the film. Clearly, it's not going to get shown without me seeing it. But I do take in films that are being completed right up to the wire, which is what makes us very, very current. By having a festival in December, what happens is we have an awful lot of films that have been very, very recently completed. So yes, but I would, if you've got a film out there and it's almost finished, well, yes, you could even now just put in a submission without the video. It would make my life, and particularly the volunteers who are going to be organising a lot of the viewings, much, much easier. In terms of length, what I would say is a short film is always easier to program. We don't have many slots for feature length films, but we have a lot of slots for short films. And internationally, there's a lot of short film festivals, but not so many that show full length films, really for the same reason. You know, I program between 60 and 70 films over 2.5 days, and they vary from, I think probably the shortest has been less than a minute. Most of them, I would say, are 3 to 15 minutes. But as a filmmaker, I also firmly believe that a story needs to be told in the time it needs to be told, and therefore I don't tend to set out to make a film of a particular length. What I do when I've edited a film is re-edit it to see if I can get anything out that isn't really entirely necessary, and anything that looks a little bit slow, however wonderful it is, unless it's supposed to be slow, I will be quite brutal. But I start by just saying I need to tell this story. So, and the most powerful stories we will be screening however long they are. So again, I think it all depends on the film.
Okay, no, that's cool. Great, thank you.
Yes, Julie's just saying, does Josh have anything to ask? Shaking his head.
It's all right. We're having to just mute and unmute, and he can't hear you, so he's having to hear from my speakers, because for some reason the films are coming through. We don't want to go technical here now, but just
no, or rather we'd love to go technical, but it's just not working that well. I think it just shows that you can be isolated at home and still be enjoying, or I should say enduring, this kind of negative period. But after all, poor old Josh, he couldn't go back to university like he would have intended, and hey, he's having the university experience at home. All he needs to do is start putting kind of messages calling for beer on his window and post-it notes, and it'll be completely complete. In fact, dressing up to go out to stay in, which is our Friday feature, and we really encourage you to dress up to go out to stay in and then send us a photograph. Josh could be a university student. That one's easy, isn't it?
We've probably got enough post-it notes to put something on his patio doors as well.
I think you just need to start charging him exorbitant rent and make him share a bathroom and clean it after himself each time. And, you know, hey, it's the whole student experience.
I was just wondering, Josh, whether you've got a little mini fridge in your room for little treats.
I don't have a mini fridge, but I am contemplating reclaiming my really fancy coffee machine that's currently in the kitchen.
Oh, yeah.
For my final 6 days of isolation.
I have this funny feeling that not only, because of course you only just recently closed your own home after 6 years, didn't you, and brought it all back. My guess is that if Robin ever needs to self-isolate, the coffee machine will go with him. And in the meantime, as you've got no access to the kitchen yourself, it's probably not going to appear on your little snack table you were telling us about on Friday. But I think on that happy note for the rest of us, because again, 6 months in, there's nothing we like better than a bit of banter. And I imagine some of the people who've got to know us all like a bit of that as well. The youngest person is always going to get a little bit of teasing.
No, I don't think that's particularly fair.
No, we can tease Ju and Julie as well. I mean, don't worry.
Yes, let's tease the oldest person then, Judy. That works for me. No, I do
That was
think
the cat.
No, we
actually.
do tease each
She's
other
quite
all
old.
the time, but we have particular fun with Josh because
He's a sitting target.
no, I was going to say because we're also jealous of him. But there you go.
Yeah. Now, I got to say, do you know what? We have got this coffee maker that you can program through your phone. Or he has a coffee maker you can program through the phone. But
And Alexa.
Every time I've gone to make coffee, I've said to him, "Do you want a brew?" And he's like, "Oh no, not really." So it's not like he's missing out from wanting or offers of coffee.
You could be here making my coffee any time, and that's another reason we're so jealous of Josh. We haven't had any PPE, one of those new words, to have social care since March. So if anybody's doing any waiting on anybody, well, that would be me on 5 cats, 2 dogs, and a human being. So on that happy note, I think we should really say goodbye because all of us will enjoy relaxing with Awa, and we want to make sure we've got time for that. Thank you so much for making these films, Awa, and we look forward to hearing a great deal more about Awa and the other members of ACT UP Newham throughout Black History Month and beyond. If you're an artist of colour or you know of artists of colour you think we don't know, please let us know. We want to feature as many artists and companies from across every kind of art form, including, of course, music, design, DJing, and a whole host more. But this is Relax with Awa.
I want you to imagine that you're floating. You're on water and you're laying on the water and you are just floating away. Nobody else but you. You are just floating away on water. Calm, and you're not thinking about anything. You're in that moment. You're floating on water. Calm water. Now, as you are floating, I don't want you to think of anything else. Just focus on your breathing. And now, in and out. You're just floating away. You don't know where you are going. You're just floating away. In calm water. What is that like? Do you like it? It's that relaxing for you. Just floating on water. You're floating. You reach to the island. There's nobody on that island but you. You are feeling calm. You are feeling relaxed. You have no worries with you. You left all your worries in the sea. You are by yourself. And you are feeling calm and relaxed. There's nobody there. You're just feeling nice and relaxed. Now, I will not talk for 10 minutes. Just be on the water. You're floating on the water on your back. There's nobody on the water. It's just calm water. Be in that world where you're just floating. No one is with you. It's just you. You're just you look up at the skies and you see the sun. You look up at the sun and you are feeling happy to be alive. Happy to have family, have friends. You are lucky to be alive.